The courtroom was silent, so silent that the only sound was the faint creak of wooden benches as people shifted nervously in their seats. The air was heavy, thick with tension, as though everyone inside the room already knew something extraordinary was about to happen. Then the doors at the back creaked open. A small figure appeared, a little girl in a pale dress, her hands searching for balance, one hand gripping a leash that guided her steps. At the other end of that leash stood a tall German shepherd, calm, steady, and fiercely protective. Gasps swept through the courtroom. The girl was blind, and yet, with her loyal companion by her side, she walked toward the judge's bench with a quiet courage that made even the hardest hearts tremble. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unbreakable loyalty of animals, pause for just a moment. Like this video, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to Pawsitive Tales. Let's spread these stories of hope and courage together. Her name was Emily. She was only 8 years old, yet life had already been unkind. She had lost her parents in a tragic accident, and her blindness came soon after, a cruel result of the same night that took away everything she had known. Since then, she had been tossed between foster homes, each one temporary, each one unable to handle the weight of a child who couldn't see the world the way others could. Her only constant was Max, the canine dog who had once been trained for police service but was retired early due to an injury. Max became her eyes, her protector, her friend, and in many ways, her last hope for stability in a world that often forgot her. The reason Emily was in court that day was heartbreaking. A relative, a distant uncle she barely knew, wanted custody of her. On paper, it seemed like an act of kindness, a family member stepping forward. But beneath the surface, whispers spread of his greed, of the inheritance money tied to Emily's name. The social workers weren't sure, the lawyers were divided, and now the decision lay in the hands of a weary judge who had seen too many battles like this. As Emily entered, the judge leaned forward. At first, he saw only a fragile child and her dog. But then he noticed her face, a mixture of fear and quiet strength. She didn't stumble. She didn't cry. She walked forward with Max guiding her, the dog's every step measured protective, as though he understood the gravity of the moment. People in the courtroom exchanged glances. Some bit their lips. Others wiped tears they didn't expect to shed. Emily was led to the front, and as she stood there, the hush deepened. Everyone waited to see what would happen. She lifted her small hand, feeling for the wooden bench before her, and placed it gently down. Then she leaned her head against Max, whispering something no one could hear. The dog pressed closer, his ears twitching, his eyes alert, his body forming a shield around her. It wasn't just companionship. It was love so deep, so unshakable, that even strangers could feel it. The uncle's lawyer spoke, his words sharp and calculated, painting Emily as vulnerable, dependent, and in need of adult supervision that only her relative could provide. He mentioned her blindness repeatedly, emphasizing it as though it were a weakness, as though her inability to see meant she could not live with dignity. Each word cut into the silence, each phrase designed to strip her of power. But then, when Emily was asked if she wanted to say anything, the room shifted again. Her small voice trembled at first, but Max nuzzled her hand, and suddenly, courage bloomed. She told the court that she didn't need someone who saw her as a burden. She didn't need pity. What she needed was love and safety, and someone who understood her heart. And for her, that someone wasn't a relative who barely knew her. It was Max, the dog who had guided her through sleepless nights, who had been there when she woke from nightmares, who had given her the strength to keep going when the world felt like nothing but shadows. The courtroom was transfixed. The judge's hand trembled as he held his pen. The other officials shifted uncomfortably, wiping their eyes. And then something happened that no one could have scripted. Max stepped forward, placing himself fully in front of Emily, as though declaring to everyone, "She is mine to protect. I will not let her be taken where she does not belong." The dog looked straight at the judge, his brown eyes steady, fierce yet filled with a gentleness that words could never capture. At that moment, the entire courtroom seemed to break. The uncle lowered his gaze, shame flickering in his eyes. One of the jury members covered his face with his hands, unable to hide his tears. Even the judge, a man known for his stern demeanor and rigid rules, leaned back in his chair, his throat tightening. He looked at Emily, at Max, and at the unspoken bond between them. His gavel remained still, his decision already forming, not from the papers before him, but from the truth that had unfolded in that room. When the ruling was finally announced, Emily would not be taken away to live with her uncle. Instead, arrangements would be made for her to remain with Max under a foster care program that prioritized their bond. She would be given stability, love, and safety. For the first time in years, she had a future she could trust. The courtroom erupted in emotion. Some clapped softly, others wept openly. Emily hugged Max tightly, burying her face into his fur, while Max stood proudly, as if he had just fought the greatest battle of his life, and won. And in that silence that followed, the judge, with tears glistening in his eyes, whispered words that many would never forget. Sometimes, the truest form of justice comes not from the law, but from love. By the time Emily left the courtroom that day, the world felt different. She couldn't see the smiles, the tears, or the awe on people's faces, but she could feel the warmth, the safety, and the love surrounding her. With Max by her side, she knew she wasn't walking into darkness. She was walking into hope. If this story touched your heart, please don't leave without liking this video, sharing it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribing to Pawsitive Tales. Your support helps us keep telling stories that prove the power of love and loyalty. Today, special request to comment. What did this story make you feel? And do you believe animals can sometimes show us truer love than humans? Share your thoughts below.